Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Poker Deals mini podcast. I'm here with Lara Eisenberg, winner of the ladies' main event this year in the World Series of Poker. How are you feeling, Lara?
Feel great. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure to have you on. So tell me, how does a competitive skydiver and radiologist get into poker?
I actually was a PC gamer way back, and
Wow.
around the moneymaker times, I saw a commercial on TV for playing poker on the internet, and I couldn't believe you could do it legally. But I was like, oh, well, I'll learn how to do that then. I'd never played poker before, and picked up the books and started learning way back in the 2000s.
So the book straight away got heavy into the learning side and strategy side.
Yeah, well, I literally didn't even know what beats what. I didn't know anything at all about the game, so I needed to start from the very beginning. And there weren't all that many books back then, so it didn't take all that long to see what was what.
Yeah, it's true. So what drew you to poker itself? I mean, you could have chosen, many other games. What was it specifically about poker that was like, yeah, this is where I want to spend some time?
Well, honestly, at first it was just that, hey, I like playing PC games, and there's all kinds of fun PC games, but you don't get to make any money playing PC games, although now you can, but back then
It's
you
true.
couldn't. And so I was like, well, it makes a lot more sense if I'm going to spend time playing games on a computer to have some potential to make money doing it. And then once I actually got into it, then I got hooked on the strategy aspects of it and all the psychological aspects of it, and and it just, as we all know, it's just a rabbit hole that just goes deeper and deeper the more you know.
It's true. So when did you start, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it had to be, I guess Moneymaker was 2003, I think. So it
Mm.
would have been around 2003, 2004, and it was just limit back then that like we played it first, and I think I only ended up in a no limit game one time up in Atlantic City because they're like, there's no limit tables. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to play no limit, but I'll sit down for a few minutes while I wait for my other table. And I was like, oh, wow, this is different, and same thing, kind of played a charity tournament. And then I was like, well, charity tournaments are different and tournaments seem like really fun. So I'll learn about that. And just kind of went from there.
Okay, wow. So what's your favorite format to play?
No limit tournaments is mainly what I
Tournaments.
play. Yeah.
Have you
So
tried the other games or?
I haven't tried other games at all. I think one time back in the Poker Stars days, I was playing a bunch of sit and goes, and I signed up for something, and then suddenly there were 4 cards in front of me, and I'm like, what in the heck is this thing? I don't know. I'm just going to play it like Hold'em because I don't know what I'm doing. I think I actually won the sit and go, but I was like, no, I'm not doing whatever that Omaha thing was. And but I haven't really gotten into it. It's just I only have so much time.
Mhm.
And so it just makes the most sense for me to pick one discipline, focus
Mm.
intensely on that. And I've played a little bit of cash, but not much in terms of other games.
So how many hours a week would you spend playing poker, do you think?
Honestly, like I don't get to play as much as other people, especially
Mm.
during the pandemic. I played a little bit more, but I work every other week, 7 days on, 7 off. So in my off weeks, I try, if I'm not going to like a live tournament, to play at least a day or two in that week. Um, and then I'm studying, some every day usually. Yeah.
Okay, so the studying is quite. I think it has to be essential today for any serious player who wants to do well in poker. I mean, study is just, like you said before, a rabbit hole in this game.
For sure. Yeah, and I also will play sit and goes, and it may not even be optimal sit and go strategy, but I play a sit and goes as if I were playing, an MTT of the
Mm.
similar at a similar point. I mean, there's final table practice really, but I'll do some of that because it's more time permissible to the time constraints that I have on days that I'm working or have other things going on.
And I think it helps so much with tournaments. I always said this to my players when I was coaching, like getting some spin and goes, getting some sit and goes, because that three-handed heads up, it's so crucial. That's where all the money is, and to do that, you need that practice.
Yeah.
It's going to help so much.
Yeah, I
So
agree. Yeah, this notion that like, well, we don't get to final tables very much, so when I get there, I'll just kind of wing it and hope for the best. Like, that's
yeah.
not really where you want to be winging it. But I'm by no means am I a heads up expert or anything like
Mhm.
that. But it definitely helps to have been in the shoes before you get there.
Yeah. So tell us, what's the vibe like at the World Series this year?
Um, it was great when I was out there. I mean, people were, masks are optional at the table, but I keep my mask on all the time, both for safety reasons and also just like, why would I not want to cover up half my face at a poker table? I don't see why I
It's a
wouldn't,
good excuse,
right?
right?
Yeah. So I pretty much kept mine on the whole time I played. But it seemed just as busy as ever. There's some other things like the Starbucks that's down by the Rio is not open, and so that kind of is a bummer. But people were just having fun, and the women's tournament, and it's the first women's WSOP tournament I've ever entered, and by far the most fun. It was just a great vibe. People were like really supportive of people, and there was no like nastiness or anything crazy. And it's not to diss the guys. It's just it just seemed like it was just a more relaxed and fun vibe. And part of that's being a 1K as well, I'm sure. But the ladies was just really fun.
Yeah, I mean, and a really strong turnout as well, like over 600 players. I mean, that's pretty strong for a ladies tournament as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything across the board as far as turnouts go are about 2/3 of what they were in 2019. Like we were kind of looking back, and that's just pandemicness, and obviously fewer Europeans involved as well, which definitely skews things probably to more recreational US, till the main event, and then we'll see what happens. But I mean, that's good for us.
So how did it feel going into the final table of the women's event?
It felt amazing. Like to me, I really hadn't put winning a bracelet on my bucket list officially, just because it's something you can't control, and it seemed so unlikely to happen. There's people who are just absolutely amazing players go, play every single WSOP and don't get a bracelet because you just have to have the stars aligned just right. But I really wanted to make a final table of a major tournament, so a WPT main event or a WSOP, and just to get to a final table. So to get to the final five and have it be a stream table too, was just like I felt like I'd already accomplished what I wanted to do. And then anything else that happened at that point, I felt like if I ladder up at all, anything else happens, that's just icing on the cake. And so that it helps because it takes the pressure off. You come in as like the smallest stack, as I did on the final table day, and it's like there's no expectations for you. You're coming in with 24 big blinds, and other people have 80 or 90 big blinds. People are like, if you bust out fifth, it's like, yeah,
expected.
Yeah. So you're just an ordinary girl with nothing to lose.
Well, it's the perfect turnaround, isn't it? Bottom stack to all the chips.
Yeah, it was lucky how it went.
So what advice would you have for anyone going into a World Series final table?
I think if you have been studying ICM, obviously that puts you in a good spot. But I would say, like, if you haven't been, that's not the time that morning of to suddenly start trying to learn ICM. But I think for people that have been studying and preparing those things, if you have somebody, as I did, who I had a good friend who was running ICM sims overnight for me.
So that's a good friend.
Right. And so that morning, I mean, we spent 90 minutes on a Zoom call together going over sims and talking about all the different possible scenarios that could come up. And then I had a separate friend from BBZ who we just talked about like first round, of hands, different scenarios and how we would approach those things. And, and doing that kind of work beforehand just puts your mind in a really good, nothing goes as you predict, but it just really helps you to kind of feel like you've done all you can, and that you really have a game plan for those specific opponents and that stack distribution. So, and it was helpful as well that we actually had 2 large stacks and then 3 small, very similar stacks. So that made it pretty easy to run sims because you can look at the 20 big blind stacks versus the 80s from all kinds of different positions with running very few sims. So that helped as well. But other than like strategy stuff, I mean, I think just the same things that you do every single day, I bring everything with me so that I can make my own coffee in the room. I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the day. I make my oatmeal in the room. Like I'm not reliant on room service or waiting in line. That's so tilting, like, for a restaurant or anything like that. Like everything that I need leading up to when I go is preset. So that helps.
Well planned. It seems like you had everything extremely well planned.
So, well, it helps. It definitely helps to have the system and to have like no unknown variables that you're kind of winging it the day before any tournament, really, at final table as well. But just to have the same kind of routine that you do every day, whatever kind of exercise you like to do, meditation, all that stuff, just kind of be your routine.
You meditate as well?
Yeah, Elliot Rowe has amazing MP3s, and I use his MP3s before and after every session. and they're really good. And for the first time, I got to use the Welcome to the World Series main event final table MP3. So that was kind of awesome. I was like, I don't know if that will ever come up, but yeah, it was great. And his work has been really helpful. And Jared Tendler also has I went through his course, which was sort of pre-WSOP mental game prep leading up to my trip out there, which also I thought was great and really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, I think this is what people don't seem to understand as well. These wins don't just come out of nowhere. There's a lot of preparation and study, the things that people don't see behind the scenes. Not a case of just getting to the final table and getting lucky. Like, all this preparation is in place. So, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with all the things that you said.
For sure. But I think that if you're somebody who isn't a full-time professional and you have like a regular job or children or other obligations, that doesn't mean that you're counted out. It means that you have to be smart and really strategize about what you can do with your time. So, even things like watching a poker video, is it optimal to do it like while you're doing other things, like doing stretches or doing other things? Like, no, everybody will tell you need to take notes and you need to do all this stuff. But it's definitely better to watch videos however you can watch them than not doing it at all, because you're not doing this perfect setup how everybody says you have to do it, and likewise, like locking down mental game stuff is cheap and easy and doesn't require thousands of hours of looking at simulations, and that gives you an edge as well. So there's lots that you can do.
For sure. And this is, the beauty of poker. Anyone sitting at that table can basically win with as little or as much knowledge as possible. And I think that's why the game is, so appealing to many players. You can take it to whatever level you want to take it, but you can also take it in a very relaxed approach as well.
Yep, definitely.
So what will you do with the winnings? Do you have any plans?
Well, I mean, Uncle Sam here takes a big chunk, and then I had a couple backers. The backers got paid already.
So they're happy.
Yeah. So I'm going to take my wife on a trip at some point here, and then the rest goes in the poker bankroll. Some goes right into the main event, but the rest goes in the bankroll. So that's that.
Nice. So the main event is the next one. Playing any other games or just the main?
If I bust the main, which hopefully I won't, I'll just win it. And but if I do bust the main, and I can still enter the one drop, then the little one for one drop is perfect timing. So I like to enter that, and then that's it. Then back home, and hopefully we'll have the World Series next summer, and then it will be just a 6-month interval, which will be really cool.
Yeah, that would be good. So you used to be a competitive skydiver. So what I have to ask, what was more thrilling, the final table heads up of the bracelet event or skydiving?
Well, not skydiving if you take 24 years of skydiving. But,
so the first time then?
The first time skydiving probably is still more exciting. Just because it's, there's nothing that compares to that. You just you check your mind at the door and out you go. But winning a bracelet was a really amazing feeling. It's, it feels very unreal at the time and still.
What will you do with the bracelet? Where will you put it?
I have it next to the circuit ring that I have.
Nice.
But, it's probably put it somewhere in a display of some kind, I guess.
Can we see it? Is it at hand or?
Absolutely.
Yes, let's get a good shot.
So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, the ladies has all kinds of diamonds across the WSOP, which is kind of neat. And a little large for my wrist, but I don't know that I want to take it apart to make it fit, because it looks really douchey to wear it. Yeah. I thought about it, but I'm like, nah, that's kind of douchey. If somebody had one on, I'd be like, really? So
yeah,
it'd probably just be to look at. Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to ask, competitive skydiving, like what is competitive skydiving? Like how do you compete in skydiving?
Yeah. So there's lots of different types of competition. What I did is called relative work. So you'll have typically 4-person teams or 8-person teams, but there are some larger teams up to like 20-person teams in the past.
Wow.
But it's but what you're doing with those people is very physical. You have a timed event where you have a video person that's jumping after you, and the 4 of you have to go through a sequence which gets drawn randomly right before you go up for the competition, and you have to go through that sequence, and it's of different kinds of formations. You might be holding one person's leg and an arm, and then there's other things where you have to fly typically vertically over each other as part of doing one move to the next. It's hard to explain, easier to show. But so it's very physical. It's also mental because you have to remember a sequence that can sometimes be not repeat entirely. It can be a mirror image the second time through. And so it can be very mentally challenging too while you're under pressure, because I mean, you get used to jumping out of an airplane, but while falling in the sky. But then also I did large formations. And so like the current large formation world record, 400 people, we did in, so we did that in Udon Thani, Thailand back in 2006.
Wow.
And it's going to be hard to break, not because skydivers can't do it, but because you need the planes.
I was going to say, like, you have to get 400 people in the air to begin with.
We had 5 C-130s because so then you can put 80 people in each one, and with video, crew and stuff like that, so that you can get people out quickly, and then they have enough time to get down and form the formation. So that was pretty cool.
So did you do it in one take or?
Oh no! We were there for 3 weeks, and so the first thing you have to do is you have to get 100 people. The core 100, you have to get them to come together reliably, and then so the rest of us would practice our little piece just on our own, so that we're ready to go. But once you can get the 100 people in the air reliably, which took days, then you start trying to put the whole 400 people out. And then I think we did it on the 13th attempt, something like that. Wow, but they're hard to do.
Yeah, it sounds
and kind of risky. Yeah,
it sounds like an operation. I mean, that's but still super fun. I mean, to be part of the world record for how many people.
It was really amazing. It was amazing, and Thailand was such a beautiful and amazing country, and people were so nice to us there. It was really cool.
That's really awesome. I haven't actually tried it myself. How many jumps have you done?
I had about 4,500, and then I quit a few years ago. Just my neck started to get too bad from openings and stuff like that, and I was getting more into poker, and my wife was not unhappy about me quitting skydiving either.
I was going to ask, is she into
all parties were happy.
Skydiving or poker?
No, she's not a risk taker.
Oh, you do all the risk taking for the both of you.
Exactly. She jokes that her big risk taking is drinking milk if it's 2 days after the expired date. So
opposite ends of the coin then.
Yeah, pretty much.
So she reins you in, I guess, or would you be more risky?
We just balance each other out.
Yeah,
I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do you do poker-wise, Lara? Anything else of notable?
Within poker?
Yeah.
For me, I like to, I join all the different groups and sites and things that are out there. I like to see what's out there and know everything that's out there. I use a lot of different tools to drill. Like there's Purposeful Practice for Poker, which is a really good book. Has ideas in there for drilling and things that you can do every day. And so I use Preflop Academy, Range Trainer Pro, and then a friend of mine also created this amazing app that it has 2 parts to it, but it's Preflop Plus and Postflop Plus, and I use that to drill every day, just to learn your ranges and learn your basic strategy in various spots. And they're just the amount of stuff that's available today to learn is just like overwhelming. Like I don't know what I would have done if it was starting today compared to when I started, and there wasn't anything. Like we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah,
so
it's
amazing.
Nuts. What would be your top advice for anyone starting out in poker?
I think really you need to have some basic site to start with, just to to learn and understand things. I personally like pokercoaching.com, Jonathan Little's site, as a good start. He's got the whole range of stuff from basic stuff to more advanced, but where his site is a really good one for people, I think, also starting out, who can do his more introductory kind of courses and really understand things, and then there's plenty for them to stay in there for. A site like BBZ, they may expand to some things that are more introductory down the road, but right now it's definitely more geared towards intermediate or higher level players. And their seminars are amazing. But so that's a couple of different ideas.
And what would you say are like the top skill sets or attributes someone needs to be a good poker player?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just willingness to work. number one,
Like
because
anything.
I'm not somebody who's mathematically gifted at all. That was like never my favorite subject or anything like that. But the math that you need to know for poker, and it's like you can learn it, and even if it's not like your favorite thing, that's why I do drills and stuff like that to make sure that I'm not making big mathematical mistakes. And then, it's definitely good if you start at a point of somebody who's kind of emotionally even keel and doesn't, like just sort of like lose it all at the drop of a hat, because there's a lot of hat dropping happens in poker, and I think a lot of the tilt stuff that happens, at least for me, came from just not understanding how things work in poker, you know. And so, your aces get cracked by jacks and you feel like the world has come to an end and this should never, ever happen. And you're like, nah, it's going to happen 20% of the time. That's not like zero,
Yeah.
And, as you, especially playing online, when you get the volume, you begin to get that understanding of the frequencies with which things happen. And you're just sort of like, sucks. That's like how it goes. And you can become more, but everybody still, there's so much you can grow and learn emotionally through poker, and I feel like working on the mental game has helped me, with that, which helps you in all aspects of life.
Exactly. I really find that as well. Like, I think it's really toughened, the way I think about things. And, if you can make it through bad variance in poker, it's almost like you can make it through anything almost, because you have to remove all the emotion for the decision making. You just have to blank it out and just make the correct decision. Otherwise, you're just going to lose money. So
Exactly.
I think it's a critical skill.
Yeah, you need to be able to reframe what success means and what a successful day means in poker. A successful day in poker doesn't mean winning money, and it doesn't mean winning a bracelet, or it doesn't mean winning anything. That, it really is, did you make good decisions that day? Did you make as many good decisions as you could for where you are right now? Because that's the only thing that you have control over. And to
Exactly.
forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make, because you're going to make them, and the highest level pros do too. They're just making smaller mistakes than you are, and probably less frequent, but they're still making mistakes. And that's, helpful to see, that it's not like, oh, these people are all playing perfectly. Nobody is. We're all just making colossal, mistakes left and right all the time. But, and then, just being willing to forgive yourself for those things and move on.
I completely agree. I think mindset is just so important, and like we said, it helps outside of poker as well. So,
100%.
many reasons to focus on that. Let's have a bit of fun and do some rapid fire questions, Lara. We'll ask you some very quick questions and see what answers you have. Nothing too tricky, but let's see what we get. Okay,
cool.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, favorite poker player?
John Van Fleet.
Okay, live or online?
For poker players, or just what do I like?
What do you prefer?
Live.
What do you love the most about poker?
The people.
Okay, what are you best at in poker?
Staying emotionally level.
What are you worst at in poker?
Probably just some strategic thing.
The blind spots.
Strategy in general, right? The parts that I don't know.
Yeah, the blind ones.
Endless mistakes, right?
Best book you've read lately?
I would say The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin.
Okay. Favorite movie?
The Matrix.
Oh, agree on that one. Favorite place in the world?
Oh, that's a tough one. Maybe Bald Head Island.
Okay. And your proudest moment?
Marrying my wife.
Correct answer.
Thank you.
That's it, Lara. That
Awesome.
was super fun, especially about the skydiving. I've not heard that before. Thank you so much for your time and coming on. It was a real pleasure to speak to you, and I certainly wish you well for the main event. Hopefully, we'll hear another final table story, and we'll have to get you back again if you get to the final table.
That would be really amazing. Thank you. This was really fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Have a fantastic day, Lara. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Same to you.
Take care.
You too.